Lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Sam Yarnell will be here, hanging out with us for most of the show today. Don't see enough of Sam these days. Miss him. But he'll be hanging out with us for the bulk of the show today. Had a conversation yesterday with David Aardsma, former big league reliever and closer who hangs out with us every Wednesday on the show. That conversation was so long, we had so much content that we'll give you more of that conversation coming up, talking all things Major League Baseball with him. Yesterday, we got into it on the Jazz Chisholm situation with the Yankees situation. The lollipop incident of 2026, as well as Rafael Devers and everything going on with him and the San Francisco Giants. That coming up. We'll have an extended conversation coming up. Some things you didn't get to hear us talk about coming up a little later on in the show. Also, some odds and ends from Major League Baseball. A frightening ordeal for people in Venezuela and how it impacted baseball there. We'll give you some video from that. And the Mets, they just keep on metting. That's coming up a little later on in odds and ends as well. But we start things out as we always do on this Thursday edition of the show. It's time for the big story, which is presented by the Daily Wrap. If you have not done so yet, subscribe to the Daily Wrap. It is our Substack newsletter, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page newsletter. We take the top story of the day, we give it to you in newsletter form every day. Go and subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page newsletter on Substack, called the Daily Wrap. Just scan the QR code right there, and it'll give you access to the Daily Wrap. It's free. Some people charge for their Substacks. I'm not doing that, at least not yet. May do it eventually. We're not doing it now. So go sign up while you can, while it's free. We appreciate you doing so. All right, the big story today is out of the NBA. That guy's in a good mood today. You know why? Because he's going to be joined by this guy, Anthony Edwards, and the Minnesota Timberwolves making a trade on Thursday morning, just as we were putting the show together. And it kind of changed the trajectory of the show and what I was going to talk about here in the big story. LaMelo Ball is headed from Charlotte to Minnesota. Naz Reid and Josh Green head from Minnesota to Charlotte to play for the Hornets. And this is interesting because when the T-Wolves got rid of Julius Randle, it was just assumed Naz Reid would step into Julius Randle's role. Well, that's not going to happen now. And, you know, look, the T-Wolves have decided to set themselves up with a big three of sorts because they're big believers in Jaden McDaniels and his future. The 25-year-old, I think he averaged 15 or 16 points a game this year. He is somebody they have a big belief in that organization. He was untouchable as far as this offseason was concerned. But they also have Anthony Edwards. Now they add LaMelo Ball. Think about that backcourt with Ball and Anthony Edwards. And there was thinking that they were going to have to make a move after they moved Julius Randle, after they were disposed of by the San Antonio Spurs in this postseason. The thought was they were going to have to do something to keep Anthony Edwards happy and to keep him from potentially bolting or asking for a trade. And they did that by bringing in LaMelo Ball. Now look, LaMelo Ball's defense is not great. But as we learned this year, a lot of people, talked about the defense of Jalen Brunson ad nauseum for a number of years. And the Knicks proved you could still win a championship with Jalen Brunson being the focal point of your offense, despite the fact that he could also be a target for teams when you're talking about the defensive side of the ball. And LaMelo Ball is still young enough and athletic enough that if you get the right coach in his ear, Chris Finch, I'm talking about you, and I'm a big believer in Chris Finch. If you listen to this show, the guy consistently gets the most out of that roster every single year in a very difficult Western Conference. Injuries, the like, he still figures out ways to win games. I love this move for Minnesota. I'm not so crazy about it for Charlotte because you finally made it into the play-in game, you made it into the playoffs, you're playing meaningful basketball in Charlotte for the first time in what feels like forever. And ultimately now you've decided to sort of strip away one of the big pieces of that in LaMelo Ball. best of luck to both teams. That replaces what I was going to talk about, which is the draft. But Sam Yarnell and I will discuss that coming up here in just a few minutes. One note here in the big story to finish. If you follow me on social media at the back page, you may have seen me interacting, let's use that word, with former Major League Baseball great Aubrey Huff, who, look, had a nice career. You know, you go look at it by the numbers. Yeah, he had a couple of rocky years in Baltimore when you look at the WAR and stuff like that. But all in all, had a good career. 2-time World Series winner. Nothing bad to say about that. His post-baseball career, which is now like 13 or 14 years old, has been nothing short of a dumpster fire. He has been a human dumpster fire. He traffics in hate, he traffics in bigotry, he traffics in homophobia. I decided to take him to task yesterday for doing those things. And his response was basically to threaten violence against me. Here, DM me, get into my DMs, I'll give you my address, you can come down here to San Diego and we'll fight. We'll have a duel. Look, I'm generally not a fighter. I choose to use my words to get across what I want. It's not to say I've never had any violent moments in my life. Certainly nothing that would ever get me in trouble or anything like that. But Aubrey Huff, I don't even know why I'm giving him the oxygen that he so richly craves in these sorts of things. But Aubrey Huff is one of the saddest excuses for a human being I've ever seen. All you have to do is go and read his social media to figure out the kind of human he is. The scary part is that he's actually infected the gene pool, which is kind of scary that he has kids. But at the end of the day, I have to stand up for what I believe is right. And if that means standing up to bullies like Aubrey Huff, then we'll do that. And that's the big story. We're coming back with more. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. I've had my say in the big story. I feel like I haven't seen enough of this guy this week. Sam Yarnell's here. Hangs out with us on the show. You know what I should do? I should give Aubrey Huff your address. And then he can come to your house and I'll say you're Jason Page.
My eyesight's just a little bit too good. My eyesight is a little bit too good. But Jason, let's call a spade, right? I don't think, I mean, you might, right? This how old am I at this point? This 25-year-old is not going to have a tough time with a guy who had a negative WAR in 3 separate seasons in Major League Baseball. It's always funny to me when Aubrey Huff tries to interject himself in whatever discussion it may be, because the Aubrey Huff that I remember growing up in the DC area was hated in that 2007-2008 period because he was god awful for the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, horrible. That's the only Aubrey Huff that I remember, is the guy who struck out. I have it here. I have it right in front of me here. The guy who struck out a combined 170 times in 2 seasons in Baltimore, 180 times in 2 seasons in Baltimore. Woof.
Well, there's a part of me that actually says to myself, and I said this in the big story, there's a part of me that says to myself, maybe I shouldn't have even engaged. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I shouldn't have even bothered engaging, with somebody who just traffics in hateful rhetoric towards anybody that isn't, a white Anglo-Saxon male. Maybe I should have just let it be. Maybe I should have been the bigger man. And then I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you got to at least verbally punch the bully in the face and let him know that you're not going to kind of take it laying down. But it is what it is. It's Aubrey Huff, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, I don't know if you can quantify the guy as a bully when there was a Major League Baseball season that he actually played in worth negative 1.7 WAR. That is, I don't think I've ever seen a WAR lower than -1. Negative 1.7. That's pretty impressive, honestly, Aubrey Huff. I don't think I would do that bad if you put me in front of 95 to 97, which is what you were facing in 2009. Do they even know how to throw sliders sweepers in 2000. I'm pretty sure the sweeper didn't even exist in 2009.
Not to drag Joey Gallo into this, but you're sure Joey Gallo never had a negative 1.7 WAR? I mean, really? Can we?
He hit enough homers. Aubrey Huff didn't hit enough homers to get that WAR high enough.
Yeah, he couldn't hit water from a boat. So anyway, let's talk about the NBA draft for a few minutes. Now that we got that out of our system, NBA draft concluded last night, Sam. And there's always going to be these questions about who wins the draft. And as I also pointed out in the big story takes, it was a two-parter. You don't know who wins these drafts until years from now. I'll give you an example. You can go and look this up and go look at my Twitter timeline or my X timeline or things I've said on radio or television over the years. I never get too crazy about the draft because you just don't know what these guys wind up equating to when they get to the NBA. And I don't know, maybe it's not fair to compare baseball and basketball in this regard. But you get guys in high school and in college that crush the baseball. You get guys that even get up to the AAA level and put up monster numbers. And then they get to the major leagues and they suck. And they just don't meet the expectation level that a lot of people set for them. You just don't know what's going to happen when guys get under the bright lights against the very best of the best, as opposed to, those 1A guys that exist, the lack of 1A guys that exist on the collegiate level or in the G League or wherever they may be. So it's difficult for me sometimes to sit here and try and tell you who I think is going to be good. The one guy I thought was going to be good was Scoot Henderson. I thought Scoot was actually going to be a lot better than he's turned out to be. And he played well in the postseason and started to show some signs. And he's still really young, so he may still turn out to be really good because a lot of these guys get into the league so young these days. But, I thought Mara to Oklahoma City was a great pick. I love that. It's also, sort of a shot across the bow for Chet Holmgren to get his you-know-what together. I saw that as a good move. I loved Terrace Reed going to San Antonio because of the fact that he can be developed within that organization and there won't be the rush for him to be as successful as some first-round picks need to be when they get into the league. And there's all the usual suspects, Sam. A.J. DeBonta to Washington, you're happy. The Jazz get Darren Peterson. The top 4 or 5 picks was basically what we thought it was going to be. Have at it. You got 2.5 minutes. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, the modern NBA draft, Jason, it's very weird because of kind of some of the things that you pointed out, right? And I think when, you're, first of all, 100% right. We're not actually going to be right about who's the winner and loser of this draft, quite frankly, until like 2 years from now. Because what is the most important thing? And you can take this back over the last 10 NBA drafts. What is the most important thing? It's not the lottery. It's not the top 5 picks. It's not who goes number 1 overall. It's who finds a good player in the second round. Who's going to find someone in the second round who is going to change the course of their franchise? Who's going to find someone outside the lottery, right? Who's going to find that Jalen Brunson? Who's going to find that Nikola Jokic, right? Who's going to find that later pick that is going to come in and quite frankly change the fabric? Well, I guess the Jalen Brunson thing's a little bit different, but nevertheless, it still changed the fabric of the Mavs organization. Like that is what is the most important in these modern NBA drafts. But I will say this, it's hard to not say, off of, the 2 days that we had of the NBA draft, it's hard to not say that your winner is very clearly and obviously the Washington Wizards. I mean, any team is going to be set up to win the draft when they have the number 1 overall pick. And I think it's pretty easy to say the loser, once again, second year in a row, hilarious as it sounds, it's the freaking Utah Jazz. They did it again, Jason. 2 years in a row. They had a player on their draft board who said, I do not want to play for you. I am going to make it clear in the media. I am going to make it clear in private. I am going to make it clear to my coaches that I do not want to play for you. And let's be quite honest, Ace Bailey did not live up to everything we expected him to be in his first season. I doubt Darren Peterson will live up to anywhere near what we expect him to be in his first season. Something has got to happen in Utah. They've got to figure something out because they can't keep doing this. It's going to end them up in the same place they ended up last season, which is with way too many good players on a way too bad team.
The problem is how many young guys say, I want to go spend the next 4 years of my life in Salt Lake City. that aren't more.
We said the same thing about Washington, and now there are guys forcing their way there.
But still, DC is different than Salt Lake City. Say it with me. It's, that's part of the problem that the Jazz are always going to have. We're coming back. David Aardsma next. Welcome back to the show. We'll get into the World Cup. Sam Yarnell will be here in 10 minutes. U.S. and Turkey. Yesterday on the show, we had our good friend David Aardsma on as SportsWrap goes inside baseball every Wednesday. There was so much conversation, we couldn't fit it all into his appearance yesterday. So we saved some of that for today. Interesting story out of minor league baseball that I wanted to begin with when it came to our conversation with David. Watch. Did you see this thing about the kid who was supposed to be a huge prospect for the Rockies have had like 2 prospects retire in like the last year. This kid who was playing in Hartford, Benny Montgomery.
No, I didn't.
Benny Montgomery announced his retirement yesterday at 23. Just decided to walk away
at
from
23.
the game. Yeah. Just decided to retire. And I ask it because, I'm trying to figure out, is it being in the Rockies organization? Does it have something to do with that? Is it guys that just sort of run out of patience? I think he's been at AA for 3 years. And this was supposed to be a stud. Like Benny Montgomery was a can't miss prospect. I know because I had collected some of his baseball cards. Is it, are we just in a different era when it comes to baseball of the sort of the grind of the minors and guys not being able to sort of handle that grind? Is it organization related? When you see 2 guys though in the same organization within a year that were supposed to be stud prospects, that one of them was a pitcher, that say, I'm just done. Is that a red flag somewhere?
So there's a couple things. One, always separate big leagues from minor leagues. I always try to do that. Okay. The Rockies minor league system right now is actually pretty good. They're one team's in 5th place, yes, but then the team's in 2nd place. Team's in 2nd place. That team he's on is in 1st place. They're 39 and 29. Like that's a good team. It's probably actually a fun place to be right now. And you're on a fun team. Like you're winning baseball games, even if it's not the big leagues. The minor leagues are like, if you're winning games, like you're rolling in, you're feeling great. Everybody's like, yeah, let's go. We're the future of the Rockies. We're going to turn this thing around together. You're winning. So it's always hard. What I've always noticed in high school picks, you don't know who you're getting. These guys are not, their brains have not been fully developed, and you can go into some serious science and talk about that and break that down. So you don't know who you're getting until they're 22, 23 years old. Then you can kind of start figuring out, especially high school players, they might get borderline where they might start, drinking or they start partying a little bit or the depression sets in a little bit because you're away from home. He's looks like a smaller town, Pennsylvania kid that, out of high school, 8th pick overall. Everything's in the world. Like, dude, I got this. But then you have a whole lot of stuff on your shoulders too from a small town. Everybody's kind of depending on you. And every year in baseball gets worse. He starts playing worse. Usually in some organizations, what you'll do in that point, you'll move them. You'll get them up to AAA. Like,
even if the numbers don't warrant it?
Absolutely. Because it might be a mental, right? It might be that mental grind. You have you sit there and so, dude, hey, you know what? We like how you're working. We like what we're seeing. He hit 283 at 21 in 2024 in AA in this small sample, but dude, like, all right, hey, we know who you are. We're seeing you. We're gonna move you up, give you a new place to play. Albuquerque, like just hit the ball in there.
Yeah, it's gonna go.
It's gonna go, and your numbers are gonna feel good. And you might start feeling good about yourself. But when you stick a guy in a spot and then you just see him constantly kind of spiral and struggle, that's the worst thing you can do, especially a first rounder. And you know what? They might have a logjam and they might not be able to move him to AAA, but you got to get the kid out of somewhere. Trade him. Move them.
Can I ask you, what's the bet if you had advice to give? If you had advice to give to a minor leaguer that's that of that age, that's sort of grinding and is feeling sort of the way that Benny Montgomery obviously did. If you could get into somebody's ear in that situation, what would you say to them?
I'm a generally positive person in all this
you
stuff.
Are. You are far more positive than me.
I am always a glass half full. Like, one, you have to find a support system outside of baseball that's gonna build you up and support you in this endeavor. Two, it's never as bad as you think it is. It isn't as bad as you think it is. Like, get your head up. Those type of things. Three, you're goddamn getting paid to play the game you love. Don't go back to when you were a little leaguer and how great that baseball felt. Take that to the ballpark every day. If you can't take to the ballpark every single day and you're constantly in this grind, then it is time to walk away. Then it is that time. But the problem is, like, these things will spiral. Yeah, every team has mental health professionals. They're trying to help and they're doing their best. But sometimes you just need somebody who's real with them and said, "Get your ass, let's go." Pick it up. Pick yourself by the bootstraps. But as an organizationally thing, I do two things. I have to move them. I have to get them out of there somewhere. Trade them or move them up. Because when you see that thing happening, you can't just, you have to look at the situation. And what's the worst that happens? I give him 2 weeks, 3 weeks in AAA, the kid doesn't hit, we release him anyways, or we trade him anyways, or he quits anyways. Like,
one last thing before I let you go. Scooble saying win or else.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
But say it publicly? Really? You got to say it publicly?
Hey, dude. Shots fired. I guarantee you there's been conversations behind the scenes and somebody doesn't feel listened to. And that's the thing. There's conversation. Tariq Scooble's a great guy, great clubhouse guy. I've never heard anything bad about him. He works out down here in Arizona. And I know guys that have trained with him said, dude, he's awesome. So I guarantee you there was conversation behind the scenes and then he just doesn't feel listened to, or you know what? It's the reality and they already know it. So if he says it publicly, everybody knows it. Everybody's sitting here and listening to it. And what it does is he did it early enough to where the Tigers can do something about it. He didn't say this like after the trade deadline or something. He said it, do it now.
He's got about 6 weeks.
Prove to me that you guys are going to make a run at this, that we are going to make a run at this. He goes like, let's go. I love that he had a little fire, got into the White Sox butt a little bit. They need that. They need more of that. And he's showing the rest of the team, let's go. Let's fire this thing up. And he's telling them where his priorities are. He wants to be there and he wants to win baseball games. I'm okay with that in this situation. He's the leader of that team. That's the same thing as Aaron Judge coming out saying, guys, we need to win. Let's go.
We're getting into the World Cup. Sam Yarnell returns next. Welcome back. Thanks to Sam Yarnell for waiting so patiently in the virtual green room. There are new developments in the Diana Rossini story, which pains me. Especially because I literally was just texting with her the night before this new story in the New York Times came out. It's just people cannot quit this story. And the New York Times now is doing a whole CYA series, basically, on this thing. So we'll get to that coming up in about 10 minutes. Odds and ends still to come as well, involving the Yankees and Mets, but more so in one case, not so much the Yankees. Well, I don't know. Maybe it does involve the Yankees too. We'll get to it coming up a little later on in the show. Sam Yarnell, USA and Turkey A. I don't know. When did it become Turkey A? It's always been Turkey to me. I don't know.
Yeah, very recently, the last couple of years.
Yeah, okay. Turkey and the United States meeting up late on Thursday night in Southern California with those two teams squaring off. And look, the United States has made it clear we're not going to play our yellow card guys, or at least not going to start our yellow card guys, because we're not going to put ourselves in a position to potentially lose them in the first game of the knockout round. because after this game, the yellow card situation resets, and you're back to square one. And I think it's a smart move by the United States. Conversely, you'd like to get the 3-0 and set yourself up better for the knockout stage as far as, who you may play in that knockout stage. But I understand the mentality here from the United States.
So it won't matter whether or not their
opponent is set.
Their opponent is not set, but their position within the bracket is set. FIFA is very weird how they do all of this thing, but the U.S. has already secured the win in their group, so they are already set in the knockouts. They will either play the team that comes in third place in Group B, F, I or BFJ or I.
That
BFJ
is confusing.
Or I believe.
Yeah, that's confusing.
And there may be one more in there. It's very confusing, but the U.S. is going to play a wild card game, or a wild card team, I should say, in the first round of the knockout. That is locked in. It'll depend on how all those other groups shake out, who that exact team that they play is. Listen, the U.S. has to, now we got to get serious about this, right? The U.S. has to maximize on this opportunity. Jason, it's much like, as much as it pains me to say this, it is exactly like what you said with the Knicks at the beginning of the NBA playoffs. You're in. Okay, that's great. You should have gotten in. There was no reason that you should not have made the playoffs in for the Knicks, the Eastern Conference as weak as it was this year, for the USA, the World Cup as weak as it is this year, as much as unfortunate as that is to say with FIFA having completely ruined the tournament basically, or with the US with how weak their group was, right? This is what you had to do. You had to win the group. You had to win the knockout stage. And quite frankly, based on how good they've looked through their first two matches, it is 100% fair for US soccer fans to be saying, we need to make the quarterfinals or else this is an absolute failure. We need to win 2 games in the knockouts or else this is an abject, absolute failure. This is the generation that we've been talking about for darn near 20 years at this point, right? This is the team. It is the World Cup on home soil with the golden generation and all these players who have been on our radars for 10 plus years, right? This is where you have to make your mark, USA. If you can't slip up tonight against Turkey, because that is a horrible start to a winning streak that you need to get on to win these next 3 matches. And if you don't, U.S. soccer fans have every reason to revolt, every reason to say, you've done all this over the course of the last, 3 World Cups, all of this excuses, all of this explaining that you've done, and look at what it resulted in. When Judgment Day came, you still did not matter. That's what it's starting to feel like it could be if the U.S. doesn't make it at least 2 matches into that knockout stage.
I wouldn't call it Jim Dolan's speech to the Knicks, but pretty good, Sam. Pretty impressive there. 33-1, the United States to win the World Cup right now. If you're looking at the odds, which are up on your screen, courtesy of FanDuel. France at plus 370, Spain at 5-1, Argentina are 6-1, England at plus 650, Portugal at 10-1, Brazil at 13-1, Germany at 13-1, the Netherlands at 15. Wow, the Netherlands 15-1, and Norway just above the United States at 30-1. Anything that stand out to you, Sam?
That Argentina number is about half of what it was pre-tournament. The books are scared of Argentina, and they rightfully should be. They look like the best team in this tournament. France has had a couple of weird halves. Spain, obviously, the draw, you got to kind of... It's not really been that close. I think that they've been the best team in the tournament thus far. Jason, the books have every right to be scared of Argentina right now. They look dominant. They look like they're still the best team in the world. And every single time one of his matches comes on, I am absolutely in awe of Lionel Messi. I cannot believe that he continues to do it the way that he does, Jason. They might be my favorite right now. I'm gonna root in the Spanish. I've always been a Spain guy, but I think Argentina's probably should be the favorite right now. I might have to put some money on them to win the World Cup.
Interestingly, the United States plus 270 to win this game against Turkey. The tie is plus 310. And Turkey is minus 115. Or is that
I think you might
do I
have
have
that
it backwards? I probably
I think you have that backwards. Yeah, Turkey
Okay. Sorry
Turkey
about
is
that.
plus 270. The
There you
U.S.
go.
resting all their starters is
Right.
minus 115 because Turkey is not very good. This is a Turkey A team that is they've sacked their manager after the first game of the tournament. Haven't won a game yet this tournament. If the U.S. loses this game, Jason, we're pulling every fire alarm in the whole building.
Then let's hope they don't lose this game. We'll have a full recap on tomorrow's show. All right, lots more to do, including the Diana Rossini story, which has some new twists and wrinkles courtesy of a New York Times article. We'll get to it next. Well, another day and another twist in the Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel, New York Times athletic saga. I always believe in transparency. I think it's the best way to go. Full disclosure, I've had a friendly relationship with Diana, professionally friendly, for 20 years. So you can take anything I say with a grain of salt as a result of that. You could think I'm giving too much information, that I'm not saying enough, that I'm critical, I'm not critical enough, all of that. I know Diana more as the person, as much as I know her as the journalist in the role that she used to serve in the capacity she used to serve in as an NFL insider, or as apparently she said as a former NFL insider. So you could take all that and do what you want with it. And again, in full disclosure, I literally was texting with her on Tuesday. No discussion whatsoever about the controversy that was going on. We were talking about our families. We were talking about my new dog. All very sort of ancillary stuff that doesn't relate to what we're about to talk about now. And I have to, and that being said, without sharing too much of my conversation with her, because I don't think she'd want that. I don't think she knew this thing was coming yesterday, based on the conversation I had with her, Sam Yarnell, because the New York Times just did everything it could to eviscerate her and incinerate her career. And again, regardless of what you may think she did or didn't do or how she handled herself, in this Mike Vrabel situation, Sam. But the Times did everything it could to get out in front and distance themselves from her even further than they already had. I'm curious to get your thoughts as to, it was a lengthy expose. Even my husband read through it. He was like, my God, this is long. They went through a lot of pains here to put this thing together. I said, yep, they sure did, Sam.
It was weird. It wasn't just long. It was weird. Like it was very weird. This kind of thing doesn't happen. I mean, Jason, you know this as someone who's been in the media game as long as you have. This kind of thing doesn't happen. Nope. And I don't mean the thing between Rossini and Vrabel. That happens all over the place. I'm sorry to say, it happens everywhere. This kind of thing where one of the most historic outlets in American history, one of the most historic news outlets in American history, does not play tabloid journalism, has never practiced this level of tabloid journalism. And it's weird all the way down to the pocket watching within the article. The mention in the article of what the woman's salary was. What are we doing here in New York Times? I'll tell you this, in speaking to a lot of young journalists, one area in which I am probably the most connected on the show, young journalists, this turned a lot of people off from the New York Times. This honestly made a lot of people my age, in my field, in our field, very scared to work at the New York Times. This is not a good look for the New York Times, especially in an era where we just, 6 months ago went through their main competitor, the Washington Post, gutting their sports department. This is not great for big corporate media entities and their involvement in sports. This is opening the door widely for your smaller publications with still a lot of backing behind them to slide right in. This is a tough look. I'm sorry to say, it's a tough look for the New York Times to now put the precedent out there that should your employee at any point engage in anything, you will not only have their back and then not have their back later and then put out an article that completely, like you said, incinerates them. You will first of all, defend your employee. Then you'll expose your employee. Then you'll tell everyone how much money they made. Like that's just, it's very weird behavior from an employer, right? I would be very shocked if there was not some level of, and I don't even mean personal lawsuit. I mean oversight body. I mean, there should be some, whether it's the Better Business Bureau or whether it's what's SAG-AFTRA. There's got to be some union, some oversight body that goes after an employer like this for putting out such personal information. That kind of stuff can't happen, right? And if you're the New York Times, if you're the suit sitting at the long table at the New York Times, you have to recognize this is bad for business, because there are going to be good journalists out there who the New York Times is going to want, who are going to look at this exact thing happening and say, $800,000 a year isn't worth it. I don't want to deal with all that.
I have a friend who worked in the news industry for a long time, TV news. That was a news director, programmer on the TV side, and she writes. Her name's Jill Manuel. If you're on LinkedIn, that's where you'll find her. She writes all the time about how newsrooms are starting to understand that they're not the center of the universe anymore. Companies like the New York Times are understanding they're not the center of the universe, and apparently the New York Times maybe doesn't understand that yet, based on this kind of hit piece that they basically put out there on Diana Russini. They're telling stories that she told publicly. The whole thing about the traffic ticket and calling an NFL head coach, which I got to be honest, I find kind of funny, because I've gotten myself out of a couple of tickets by being Jason Page. And honestly, I have no shame in it. I really don't, because I wasn't like doing anything terrible or getting myself into, any crazy trouble. It's just kind of misunderstandings with the police, and they realize who I am and they've let me go. And people are going to say entitlement. No, it is what it is. We live in this day and age, Sam, where newsrooms are becoming less and less valuable because of social media reporting. News people in social media, the TikToks, the Instagrams of the world. And I don't think the New York Times did anything to endear themselves to that group with the hit piece they put out on Diana Russini. There will be more on this for sure, but odds and ends are next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. But before we do, a couple of reminders. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, well, it's the audio version of this show, available Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show in crystal clear audio. Simple as that. Subscribe today. We strip out most of the commercials, 45 minutes long. It works just as well in its audio form as it does its TV/video form. So go and subscribe to that. Maybe you don't have time to watch us on TV. Maybe we're preempted wherever you are. Sometimes there's games on and things like that. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is the place to find all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page, of course. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show is available there. 45 minutes, all the commercials are stripped out of that, so you can watch the show there. Extended conversations are available there. Sports Wrap Originals are there. Sports Wrap Shorts. These are 1 to 3 minute long videos. News breaks, we jump in on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram with Sports Wrap Shorts. We invite you to go and subscribe to that. In addition, we now have the Sports Wrap website. Finally, I was able to get the Sports Wrap website completed. SportsWrap.tv is the place for all your information on the show. You want to find your affiliate? Go to SportsWrap.tv. All you got to do is type in your city and state. Boom, there it is, where you can watch the show on over 270 affiliates. That available at SportsWrap.tv. The podcast is available there. You can subscribe. The TV version of the show available via YouTube is available there. Sports Wrap Shorts are available there. The merch store is coming soon. That'll be available there. It's already actually there. It just doesn't have any merch yet because we're still in the process of getting that manufactured. So make sure to go and check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page website, sportswrap.tv. We look forward to seeing you over there. And without any further delay on this Thursday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. It must feel like the end for the New York Mets at this point. It's always darkest before the dawn, or it just stays really dark. In the case of the Mets. If you didn't see it last night, here it is.
Kelly. And he hits it sharply at Vientos, and he boots it for yet another error. Unbelievable. The 6th infield error for the Mets tonight. Second for Vientos. And that puts runners at first and third.
Kelly with a ground ball gets to Vientos' right. It looked like he wasn't sure whether to backhand it or play it straight up. I think that ball hit him in the knee.
I mean, what do you say at this point? I mean, this team is in the depths of despair. Can't get starting pitching to hold the other team at bay. Struggling with their offense. And now the defense falls apart. 6 infield errors. Unprecedented.
That was the reason I wanted to let it breathe. 6 infield errors. I mean, that's insane. That's Little League bad. That's bad Little League bad. Poor Gary Cohn and Ron Darling trying to figure out a way to get through it. For the Mets right now, if you don't know, they've lost 7 of 10. They have a minus 46 run differential. They've lost 5 in a row overall. They're 34 and 46. They're not only in last place in the NL East, they're 6 games clear in last place in the NL East. Again, there have been moments in this team's history when you think they're at rock bottom, and then all of a sudden it turns around and the Mets find themselves somehow in the playoffs. So I'm not counting them out yet, but I'm pretty close. Odds and ends, this was frightening. If you have not seen this, this was, if it looks like the camera is shaking in this Venezuelan League baseball game, it's because it is. And it's because there was an earthquake. A 7.2 and then a 7.5 magnitude earthquake within a minute or so of each other, hitting in Venezuela. This is a tragic story. There are over 160 people that have died as a result of this. Over 1,000 are injured. Those numbers are expected to climb in the hours ahead. Say a prayer for those living in Venezuela, a country that's been in turmoil. We all know about the political stuff that's taken place, what our government has done to try and exact change in that country, whatever you may think of it, good, bad, or indifferent. This is on a whole different scale. Best wishes going out to everybody in Venezuela. Baseball, obviously, an afterthought there right now after what has transpired in Venezuela with these disastrous earthquakes. That's going to do it for us on this Thursday edition of the show. Robert Littell from Black Sports Online will make his triumphant return on the show tomorrow. Tino Patino will be here, and who knows what else we'll have in store for you on a Friday edition of Sports Wrap. That wraps it up for this Thursday. I'm Jason Page. I'm going to go put my tongue back in my mouth. We'll see you back here on Friday for an all-new edition of Sports Wrap. Bye-bye.